What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Ballion, back with another episode of the Sports Pod. And today I'm going to give you my predictions for every matchup coming up in week 14 of the NFL season. I'll get into all of it on the other side of the intro. Hit it.
DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang!
At the wall, he jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career.
All right, getting into the episode. And let's start on Thursday Night Football with the Packers and the Lions. Two of what I believe are the top teams in the NFC. The Lions are the top team, and then I think the Packers fall at maybe the fourth or the fifth best team in the NFC. I think they're definitely behind the Eagles, and I'm still a little bit unknown on the Vikings. I think it could go either way between the Packers and the Vikings. I know the Vikings record is better. That's why I give them the benefit of the doubt. But as of late, I think the Packers have been the better football team. And to me, this is a huge game for the Packers, not only because they're playing the Lions and it's Thursday Night Football and they need to win a good amount of games here if they want to get into the dance, but it's also going to show me where they stack up with the rest of the NFC and with the juggernaut of the NFC in the Detroit Lions. I'm not saying they have to win. I just want to see the Packers come out and compete and keep it close and make it a really good game through the fourth quarter and give the Lions a run for their money. That's what I would consider a successful game for the Packers this Thursday night. And for the Lions, I think they need to bounce back after what I said was a pretty underwhelming second half the other night or last week at this point against the Bears, because they let the Bears score 20 points. They almost lost the game. If it wasn't for awful clock management by Matt Eberflus, I went into this in yesterday's episode, the Bears could have won that game. And the Lions were up. They were up a lot at the end of the first half. If I'm looking at the score right now, the Lions were up 16-0 in the first half, and then the Bears went on a 20-7 run in the second half. That can't happen again. The Lions, I feel they get a lot of credit for their wins, and as they should, but they're another team, like, they do have to grind out wins a lot of the time. The wins don't come easy to them. And it's the NFL. Wins don't come easy to anyone. That's how the sport kind of works. But I want to see the Lions come out and, if they can, dominate the Packers. I know that's a tall task, but I think the Packers or the Lions are the team to do it. It's a division rivalry. The game's in Detroit in a controlled weather environment. And we'll see what Jared Goff has. We'll see what the rest of this Lions offense has. And it's more about the defense. I'm pretty comfortable with the spot that the Lions offense is in. It's going to be more of, where is the Lions defense amid all their injury troubles, and can the next guy step up? And can the Lions have that next man mentality where they take that next step? And I already think they are the best team in the NFC, but that at that point they would be like the number one option for the Super Bowl. All right, next game, Saints and Giants at MetLife Stadium. I'm taking the Saints, and I'll tell you why. I think the Saints are a solid football team. I mean, they've hung with some of the elites in the NFL. They've hung with the Eagles. They actually beat the Eagles. They hung with the Chiefs. They lost by less than 2 touchdowns, and they only lost by a touchdown to the Rams last week. So they're a respectable football club. I don't know if they're necessarily a good team, but like they're nothing to be ashamed at. They're nothing to laugh at. They're not as bad of a laughingstock as the Giants are. Drew Lock will be starting this game for the G-Men. Tommy DeVito, he could be the quarterback to it, or he might be unavailable because of his health issues. I think his shoulder It's his shoulder or his forearm, but he was injured on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, and we'll see what happens if he plays on Sunday this week. But I think the Giants should just continue to lose. Their formula right now is perfect. Keep losing. Have finished the season with 2 wins. Brian Daboll, I expect your job to be bad. You to have your job after this year. Same with Joe Shane. See what you want to do in the draft. If you want to take a quarterback, take a quarterback. But only if it's your guy, and this is the guy that you really believe that can be your franchise quarterback for the next 10, 12 years. Or if you don't see that one of those guys in the draft, because I really don't, you take a position player, you take an offensive lineman. That's the strategy to win. But I think I told you about this yesterday. The risk in taking an offensive lineman or a skill position player is that you don't have a guaranteed job in the season after if it's another subpar season, which I would expect it to be. Whereas if you take a quarterback, I would expect John Mara to give Daves and Shane an extra year or two because they have to work with the new guy and they have to get that rocking and rolling. But yeah, Saints win this one. I think it could be a pretty competitive game if the Giants keep it close. These are two pretty underwhelming teams in the NFL. Neither of them are really good. The Saints are all right, but the Giants aren't. We're just not going to talk about the Giants anymore. All right, next matchup: Browns and Steelers. The rematch of Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago, and this time I think Steel City and the Steelers come out on top. I think Russell Wilson gets his revenge on Jameis Winston, and the Steelers get a win. After 2 weeks ago, they had to go into Cleveland, they had to play in the elements, and they couldn't come out on top on Thursday Night Football. This time, they're playing at Heinz Field. The terrible towels will be going. The Steelers crowd is going to be into it. I don't think that any Steelers fans were expecting this good of a season from the Steelers this year. They've overexceeded, I would say, every expectation. I didn't expect them to be at the top of the league at all, competing for potentially a Super Bowl. I think they could go to the AFC Championship and maybe even the Super Bowl. But if the Browns want to win this game, it's got to come from Jameis Winston. I know he threw for just shy of 500 passing yards on Monday Night Football, but he threw 3 interceptions. He's got to clean that up if he wants to play and if he wants to win against the Steelers team that is not messing around this time. They might have taken the Browns a little bit lightly the first time. The Browns had like 2-3 wins at that point. Let me see, what's the Browns record? The Browns they had 2 wins coming into that game. Steelers thought they were going to go into Cleveland and get an easy win, but that wasn't the case. And the Browns came out and they were firing. They were ready to go. Kevin Stefanski had his team locked and loaded. Jameis Winston led his team to victory. And a similar thing could happen here. This is like a toss-up. I mean, I think Jameis Winston should get a starting job next season in the NFL. I think he's good enough to do that and be a starting quarterback for a team. Be a starter. He's done it before, and I think he could do it again. What's stopping him? He's better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones started for 9 weeks this year. Let's see, who else is he better than? If you go through the quarterbacks, he's been better than Aaron Rodgers this year. So you could say that. Who else is he better than? Better than Will Levis. This year he's been better than Anthony Richardson. And Gardner Minshew is better than as well. So I don't know what's stopping Jameis Winston from getting a starting spot. If he wants to leave Cleveland, I think he could be a starter next year. But if he doesn't, they're going to start Deshaun Watson. But it's pretty much inevitable that Deshaun's going to get hurt at some point in the season. So that's kind of a play where Jameis is like, I'm going to get to start a couple games anyway because starter's going to go down, and I have backup expectations, so it's not that big of a deal. Steelers win this one, though. They get their revenge. And that's that, man. Next game, Falcons and Vikings. Another interesting matchup for the Falcons. The Vikings are not as good as the Chargers. Kirko Chain's revenge game, is it on the table? Is it loading? Is Kirk Cousins gonna come back to US Bank Stadium out there in Minneapolis and dominate? Bounce back after throwing 4 interceptions to the Chargers secondary? I could see it happening. I do think the Vikings win. I just think they're a better team, and they're gonna come out. They're gonna tighten up after last week's little blunder towards the end of the game. It didn't end up hurting the Vikings, but it definitely was something that they have to tighten up. And in the NFL, in the spot that the Vikings were in, you just got to take your win and run. You got to take your win. You got to tighten up next week, and then you got to get back out there. And that's what the Vikings are going to do this week. Sam Darnold's going to come out looking locked in. Kevin O'Connell is going to be locked in. The defense is going to be good as always, because that's one of the things that the Vikings have built their season on. Danielle Hunter's pass rushing. Their secondary picked off Kyler Murray on the last drive of the game last week. So they're pretty solid. I mean, the Vikings are a good football team. They're just not good enough to go to an NFC Championship game because they're probably going to have to run into the Lions or the Eagles before they reach that point. And if not them, the Packers. A Packers-Vikings game in the playoffs, pure cinema. That would be awesome. I would sign up for that any day of the week. But for the Falcons, I mean, they're in a spot where they're on the outside looking in. They're 6-6 right now. I mean, they can get into the dance. I don't know. I just don't trust them to win enough games down the stretch. I don't trust them as a football team to be successful in these last couple of weeks. Like, they lead their division right now. I think, yeah, they're top of their division, 6-6, tied with the Bucs, but they have the tiebreaker. I think the Bucs end up winning the division. The Falcons might sneak in as a wild card, but I could see them falling to what would it be, 6-11. They might not get another win this year, or they'll be 7-10. Let me look at their schedule real quick because I think they do have a tough one for the rest of the year. No, they do not actually. They're going to make the playoffs. They play the Vikings. That's a tough game this year. They play Las Vegas on Monday Night Football. Then they play the Giants the next Sunday. And then they wrap up with the Commanders and the Panthers, who are a team that their record doesn't show how good they've been over the last couple of weeks. Bryce Young has looked pretty awesome, and the Panthers have looked a lot better. So we'll see what the Panthers are at that point. But I think it's going to be better than what most people think because I trust in Bryce Young. All right, next game, Raiders and Buccaneers. I'm taking the Bucs. There's not much I have to say about this game. I mean, the Bucs are simply better. The Bucs get production from every position on the field, whether it's K-Dot and a tight end, Mike Evans at receiver, Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Bucky Irving at running back. Their defense is solid. Their offensive line is always pretty good. They are a good football team, and injuries have thrown off their season a little bit, but they're 6-6 threatening. I think they're a positive 6-6, where the Falcons are they're in a worse spot to say the least. They're in a negative as Kirk Cousins hasn't been performing well, and they've been incredibly inconsistent throughout this whole year. So I put my trust in the Bucs over the Falcons any day of the week, and especially over the Raiders, who are a bottom feeder of the league. Aiden O'Connell, who I like his game, he's gonna be starting for the Raiders, but name another player on the Raiders besides Max Crosby. Like they have nobody. They're just not a good football team. They gotta reset it. I think their head coach is fine, but they gotta draft a quarterback, build up a good team around him, and then go from there, because this is not cutting it for the Raiders right now, who they've been pretty good in the past. All right, next game. I think this is going to be an underratedly interesting matchup. The Panthers and the Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles, but I really do believe that the Panthers can keep this game close if Bryce Young performs like he has the last 2 weeks. Last week, especially against Tampa Bay, where they lost in overtime, and then the week before that, where they made Patrick Mahomes have to beat them at the wire, beat them at the buzzer, and that's something Patrick Mahomes does at an otherworldly level. So he did it, but they hung with the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are probably second, third best team in the NFL this year. So, that's an accomplishment. And the Eagles are another team. They're probably third or fourth. They're probably like fourth or fifth best team. But still, they're up there. A lot higher than the Panthers would be. I would slot the Panthers in at probably 16, 17 right now. So somewhere around there. And I think this game could go three ways for the Eagles. 1, an easy win. 2, a bad loss. It doesn't matter what the score is or what the situation is. Any loss to the Panthers is a bad loss for the Eagles. And 3, the Panthers make the Eagles sweat out a win. So this game has a lot of ways I think it could go, and it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I'm excited to watch Bryce Young compete with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and those guys, because they are good. Next game, one of the worst games that's going to be in the NFL this year. I'm going to gloss over this one. Jags and Titans. I'm going to take the Titans. The Jags don't have a quarterback. Mac Jones, Daddy Mac, is going to be the starter for the Jags, because Trevor Lawrence is going on IR with that concussion he suffered from Azeez Al-Shaair. The last Sunday, he's done for the year. He's going to get surgery on that injured shoulder. That's a mouthful. Surgery on his injured shoulder after trying to rehab it and coming back for about like half a quarter. But the Titans aren't good either. They're just better than the horrific Jags. It's gonna be a game. It's gonna be a sloppy one. It's gonna be disgusting, and the Titans are gonna come out on top. That's all I have to say. All right, next matchup: the Jets and the Dolphins. I'm taking the Dolphins, and I think this because I think the Dolphins will come out with more desperation. They have an outside chance of making the playoffs right now. They need every win, and they need every win in a convincing manner. They need to show me, at least, I mean, it's all numbers based for playoff standings. They need to show other teams that they could beat solid teams. The Jets on paper are a solid team. And if the Jets come out and play like play the way they did in that first half against Seattle last week, this could be a game. This could be a game. If the Jets start playing like that, if the Jets start playing like they did in the first half of last Sunday, Jets are going to look good, and they're going to win a couple meaningless games, and they're going to set their franchise back a couple more years. Welcome to the Jets experience. But I think the Dolphins win. I think they're going to come out desperate, like I said. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to have these guys ready. I mean, all he does is beat up on sub 500 teams. So you got to expect that to continue. But yeah, I think the Dolphins come out and win. And I saw something interesting today. Tyreek Hill put out a post on social media. It was a picture of him walking off the field, and it was captioned, this isn't exact, so everything you love comes to an end. Is Tyreek Hill hinting at his retirement? I know he's had a down year so far. He can still turn around with a couple big weeks to end the year. But I think he has another season or two of really good football in him. Tyreek Hill has been an elite receiver ever since he joined the league. I mean, he's only 30 years old. He's got legs left under him. He's still so fast. And it's not like he's lost a step. It's interesting to me. I don't think he retires. I think it's probably just talking for people. And That's all it is. I'm not reading too much into it, but Tyreek Hill shouldn't retire. He's still got a couple good years in front of him. Dolphins win this one though. They're gonna come out. They're gonna play better, and it's gonna be a convincing win. All right, next matchup, a really good NFC West matchup on the table here. You got the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Now the NFC West is wide open. Cardinals with a brutal loss last week, and the Seahawks and Rams both won. The other two teams that are competing for the NFC West playoff spot, that division championship. I think the Cardinals come out and win this game. They need it more than the Seahawks. The Seahawks would love to win this game, but it's not the end all be all. And Geno Smith has looked good, yeah, but Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. have been better, I think, this year. I love that combo. I just think Kyler's got to get the ball to Marvin Harrison a little bit more. I mean, I was watching that Vikings game last week, and it seemed like he wasn't touching the ball. He did have a touchdown. I think he leads rookie receivers with 7 of them. But the Cardinals have to incorporate him into their offense a lot more. It's like they're not using him enough, and he was, what, 3rd, 4th overall pick? So that's my thing on Marvin Harrison Jr. But after that loss last week, a rough loss where they were trying to go hurry up with a lot of time left. They were trying to take a shot down the field, and Kyler Murray got picked off. I think they're going to come out firing. I think they're going to come out and just dominate on the offensive side of the ball. And I think for their defense, it's going to be more of a question. Can they lock down Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense, rather than can the offense put points on the board? Because Kyler Murray can score. And I think he'll do that quite a bit in this one. But can the Seahawks offense be slowed down by the Cardinals defense? All right, Cardinals win it though. Next matchup, the other NFC West team I think is still in contention for the division is the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams have as good a chance as anyone. I think they're the best team in the NFC West. But the reason they won't win the division is because they had injuries. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were down for a lot of the year. Bills and Rams this week, though, just getting to the actual matchup. Give me the Rams, man. I think they're going to win. I think the Bills are going to be off a high of last week's Sunday Night Football win. They're going out to L.A. They're going to be partying for however long they're down there, or they're out in L.A. Get away from freezing cold Buffalo, New York. The Rams are going to come in there. They're going to be the Bills don't have much on the line besides seeding for the rest for the rest of the way. If I look at the standings, I know the Bills have won the AFC East. They're guaranteed a playoff spot. The Chiefs have clinched their playoff berth. They're sitting at 11-1 right now. The Bills won their division. They're 10-2. They're slotted at the 2 seed right now. But all that can change. The top 3 seeds for the AFC, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Steelers, they're all separated by like 2 games. Chiefs are 11-1. Pittsburgh's 9-3. It can change like this in the NFL. Down the stretch, if some teams get lazy and they don't win a couple games that they're supposed to, their whole season can be different. They could be playing on the road in the first round instead of at home, or potentially getting a first round bye. So the Bills, yeah, they need this game, but they don't really have much to play for. At the Rams, they have everything in the world to play for. Right now, the Rams aren't in the playoffs picture. They're 6-6. They're one of those teams that are in the hunt. And these are the weeks that those in the hunt teams get cut out of the graphic. The Bills won't be, or the Rams won't be going anywhere. They're going to be right in the mix for the rest of the season. But for the other teams, it's going to be the Rams winning and then other teams losing. Because Rams at the 10, they're 6-6, but 8, 9, and 10 are all 6-6. So they need the Bucs to lose. They need the Cardinals to lose. And the division's not over by any means. The Seahawks are only 7-5. So a Cardinals win and which would mean a Seahawks loss, and a Rams win would have the Rams tied for first in the division. So I don't know who has the tiebreaker. I could go into that, but that's enough for about this game. I think Rams win. They have more to play for, and they're going to be playing a lot harder. All right, next game. Bears at 49ers. This is going to be another game that's real sloppy. Bears are going to be playing their first game under interim head coach Thomas Brown, and I'm taking the Bears. I think they're in that honeymoon stage. We saw it earlier this season with Darren Rizzi and the New Orleans Saints when they knocked off the Falcons, and the Falcons were a better team at that point. They knocked off the Falcons, and yeah, there was that honeymoon phase. They went on. I think they might have went on to win the next week as well. But that's like a common theme. I feel like every time there's an interim head coach, the team goes on a hot streak, and I think something similar is going to have to happen to the Bears here. They're not going to make the playoffs or anything. They're sitting at 4-8, so it's highly unlikely. If they did, it would take a lot of help from other teams and the Bears winning out. But for this one, the Niners are banged up. I think like I said, it's going to be a sloppy game, but it's also going to be like a really close game, exciting down the stretch. We'll see what Brock Purdy could do without Christian McCaffrey, and what Caleb Williams could do under a new head coach. All right, 2 games left here. Here's Sunday Night Football. This is a good Sunday Night Football matchup. Chargers at Chiefs. My game of the week. Now listen, I am taking the Los Angeles Chargers. I've said it a million times. The Chiefs need a wake-up call, and this is going to be that game. The Chargers are going to come out, and they're going to win this game, and the Chiefs are going to tighten things up, and they're going to be good for the rest of the year. But this is going to be a big test for the Chiefs, and it's going to be a big test for the Chargers. And in these challenge games, the Chiefs have not really deserved to win. They've played 2 of them so far. They've played the Bills, and they've played the Ravens on opening night. They should have lost to the Ravens on opening night, but Isaiah Likely's toe was out of bounds. They also lost to the Buffalo Bills. The Chargers are the 4th best team in the AFC, in my opinion. It goes Chiefs, Bills, Steelers. Yeah, Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Chargers. And then Ravens are 5th. I don't trust Lamar Jackson. This is a challenge. The Chiefs have to prove to me that they can win big-time games and big-time moments and prime time with this roster, because the Chiefs roster has changed a lot. It feels like every year. I feel like every year they have a lot of new receivers. They have the same core in Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones, but there are a lot of moving pieces, and Isaiah Pacheco is back now, so they have no excuses to lose. But Justin Herbert, he is improving right now, and the only way he is going is up. He is starting to hit his stride and hit his peak, and it is happening at the perfect time. We're in week 14 now. You have 4 weeks left of the regular season, and then that momentum should carry over into the postseason. This is exactly the situation Chargers fans wanted, and I think the Chargers win on Sunday Night Football. Give me the Chargers. All right, Monday Night Football, an interesting matchup between the Bengals and the Cowboys. I'm personally taking the Cowboys. These teams are both in similar spots. They have an outside chance to make the playoffs, but they need to both essentially win out if they want a chance. Both teams are 4-7, I think. Bengals, 4-7. This is just not the truth. Cowboys are 5-7. Bengals are 4-8. Cowboys have more of a chance to make the playoffs, and a win would get them really back in contention, because then they'd be 6-8, just 2 games under 500. Still with a chance for a winning season. It would actually put them at 6-7. Sorry. But yeah, I think Cowboys win. And that's that. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. If you enjoyed, please leave consider subscribing or following based on your platform. If you want to be featured on the Sports Pod, leave a voicemail at 848-305-8073. All right, last thing to do, make sure you go check out all my socials linked in the description below. And most importantly, keep it locked with the Sports Pod.